On the picturesque Laikipia Plateau of Kenya, Dr. Shirley Strom has been studying several troops of baboons for nearly 5 decades. One of her aims is to better understand their collective decision-making. With troop sizes varying between 20 to over 150 individuals, it can be hard to keep track of both group-level and individual-level movement trajectories, particularly since the baboons prefer rough terrain and large boulders as sleeping sites. To improve her logistical ability to track multiple animals, she reached out to the team at Engineers for Exploration, where we set to work using drone footage to get a bird's-eye view of the entire troop, unlocking information about baboon behavior that has not previously been available. We've processed this information by using a custom algorithm to remove foreground baboons from their background. To do so, we start with a set of previous or historical frames. Using the current frame as a reference, we adjust the historical frames to match the reference frame. The adjusted frames are then combined using an intersection algorithm. The intersections are then unioned together, generating a single reference of what the background should look like. This reference background is compared against the current frame to extract the moving baboons. We can then convert each baboon into a single centroid using blob detection. The output centroid of the blob detection represents the results of our motion detector. This motion detector provides an effective basis for tracking baboons. We've explored other possible solutions, like applying deep learning-based object detection, but these methods prove to be less effective than background subtraction-based motion detection. This is largely because baboons are difficult to identify even for humans without picking them out through their movement across frames. This is largely because baboons are very small relative to the resolution and field of view of the image, often taking up less than 1% of the frame, and because of a very similar color to the ground and brush. Although the motion detector is a good starting point, it presents a number of problems when used on its own that need to be rectified before it is accurate enough to be usable by our research partners. These problems were the main focus of our work this summer. The first and most significant issue is that the motion detector will not identify baboons that are not moving, even for a small percentage of the time. The detector will also not pick up baboons that are occluded by trees or underbrush. Finally, there's still a small but notable amount of noise after the frames are transformed to overlap. In terms of usability, the algorithm's Python implementation is prohibitively slow, and can take a few seconds to process each frame. Our main approach to solving the stationary baboon's occlusion and noise has been through the use of a class of techniques collectively termed Bayesian filtering. Specifically, we implemented and tested a particle filter and a Kalman filter-based approach to baboon tracking. Our particle filter works by comparing the expected positions and directions of our baboons to the bounding boxes that the background subtraction algorithm has identified. A certainty value is then calculated using intersection over union to characterize the dissimilarity between the theoretical and actual position of the baboons, at which point we take out baboons that don't meet a specified probability threshold, and repeat the process for each frame for the duration of the footage, causing the baboon particles to slowly converge onto the baboon's position. This is a simple and direct approach which makes it attractive. The particle filter helps us track baboons better than we could before when stationary and occluded baboons were untracked. But when trying to implement the particle filter, we found that the filter didn't adequately track baboons that have moved. This causes the filter to continuously add new baboons to the frame. To correct this, we intend to review the calculation for our certainty value to ensure that it more accurately identifies the same baboon frame to frame. Our alternate solution is a Kalman filter. This uses a simple baboon motion model to predict the movement of the baboons each frame. The smaller and further away the bounding box is from the predicted location of the baboon, the less we trust the bounding box. This is less computationally intensive than the particle filter, but has many of the same benefits. It can track stationary baboons and reduce noise. In practice, our Kalman filter was very successful. It has no problem tracking stationary baboons and successfully rejects small amounts of noise from the background subtraction. The main drawback of the Kalman filter is that it requires the user to indicate the number and the initial locations of the baboons. This is not an inherent limitation of the Kalman filter. We could use a heuristic to identify the initial positions of the baboons. But it does make the filter more robust and easier to implement. We think the small amount of human intervention is a reasonable trade-off for higher accuracy. We explored a number of methods for denoising the input image, but most of them did not yield significant difference in results. Our algorithm originally operated on a grayscale image, but we tried feeding in the red, green, and blue color channels instead. We found that while the performance of the blue and green channels were similar to grayscale, the red channel produced more false positives. We tried using hue saturation value as well, and we'd like to continue considering more ways that we can mix the blue and green channels to produce better results, as these were the best performing color channels. Because the original Python implementation of our background subtraction algorithm was quite slow, we re-implemented it in C++ and added GPU acceleration to get a more than 10 times speed up on a Jetson Nano over the original Python implementation. Because of this performance increase, it's now possible to use it in the field without waiting significant amounts of time for it to process data. Our next steps involve adding a user-friendly interface so that the algorithm is readily accessible to our researchers. We'd also like to acquire more data to test our algorithm. Even though there is more work ahead of us, our progress this summer substantially improved the accuracy and runtime performance of our methods. And we believe we are much closer to the point where our work is ready to be deployed and used to help scientists in the field.